In the early hours of February the 6th, two powerful earthquakes struck Turkey and Syria. In the immediate aftermath, news of the disaster quickly spread across the world. People were watching the disaster unfold in real time. Social media was flooded with footage and photos, as well as pleas for help from trapped survivors. And as search teams reached survivors, social media played a powerful role in mobilizing assistance and raising awareness on the sheer scale of the disaster.
This is the moment a magnitude 7.7 earthquake hit the Turkish city of Kahramanmaraş. Nine hours later, a magnitude 7.6 quake struck. Ten provinces were impacted, with officials calling the quakes among the strongest ever to hit Türkiye. In the hours after, clips like this were shared and seen by millions online. Trapped survivors also used social media to reach out for help and pinpoint their locations to rescuers.
Arkadaşlar, depremin altında kaldık. Yardım edin lütfen. Hatay Antakya, Güçlü Bahçe sitesi, yıkılan bir binamız var. Lütfen yardım edin.
In the city of Malatya, Boran Kubat uploaded this plea online after the second quake caused his family home to collapse.
Ege mi? Aslanlar sitesi karşısı. Efuz apartmanı. İkinci kattaydık. Dayımın sesi çok iyi gelmiyor. Lütfen bu WhatsApp durum anne. Bu gören herkes lütfen gelsin yardıma. Şu an herkes lütfen yardıma gelsin.
Within hours, rescuers were able to save Boran Kubat and his family. As survivors like Boran shared their real-time locations, tech developers used that information to build databases of where people needed urgent assistance, whether it be rescuing or aid.
Alhamdulillah, you can see the people.
High-profile figures, from world leaders to celebrities, also used their platforms to appeal for help and donations.
I'm sure many of you have heard about the recent earthquake in Turkey. If you're anything like me, you're wondering how on earth can I help?
Millions of people here in Turkey have been affected by the earthquake, and many people need our help. As a Galatasaray football player, I ask my fans to support the club's campaign.
Below this video, you will find a link where you can donate so we can get the necessary needs to provide for the necessary means.
To this day, people continue to use social media's many platforms to mobilize, coordinate volunteers, and provide aid to thousands of survivors still in need.
In the wake of this tragedy, Turkey declared a level 4 emergency. That's the highest alert level, and reached out for international help. The response was rapid. International teams from as far away as South Korea and Mexico arrived to assist in the massive rescue operation. But clearly, there was a language barrier that needed to be overcome to ensure an effective, coordinated response. And interpreters in Turkey got themselves organized. And soon there were multiple associations from around the country working closely with local and international teams, easing communication with both victims and local support groups. Meanwhile, other translators were collaborating remotely to create glossaries of essential terms in a variety of languages to help those out in the field. One terminology database created by Boğaziçi University, for example, covers words and phrases in almost 30 languages. With hundreds of teams from all over the world, interpreters with different language pairs were essential to ensure victims received the support they needed. Let's talk to one of those volunteers now, Alev Tyson, a lecturer in translation and interpreting at 9 Eylül University in Izmir. She was on the ground in Antakya for the İlk Umut First Hope Association as the coordinating interpreter. Now, I understand you were in Antakya. What was your day-to-day like there?
Hello. So I was there in Antakya helping Samaritan's Purse Field Hospital as an interpreter and interpreter coordinator. And I assisted the hospital administration in their communication with local authorities, local partners, suppliers, officials, contractors, and logistics while supervising, coordinating the interpreters and interpreting for the doctor-patient dialogues as well. We work 12-hour shifts every day, and at least 15 interpreters served from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. on day shifts, and 10 interpreters served in the evening shifts. Our hospital is open 24/7 for healthcare services. And as it is a pop-up hospital from scratch, you can imagine how many things are needed to run a well-developed hospital, from housing arrangements to supplying food to the volunteer personnel.
So, Olive, there were rescue teams from more than 100 countries in the quake zone. So obviously interpreters were very crucial in the aftermath of those quakes.
Yes, definitely. As I said, the healthcare personnel was English speaking and operating in Turkey with local authorities, local suppliers, as well as patients. But patients are not only Turkish speaking patients. There is a local Arabic speaking community in Antakya, as well as a Syrian community. So we also needed English Arabic speaking interpreters in the field, in the hospital. And the hospital treats patients, both patients who had injuries from the earthquake waiting to be cared for, and also patients who get sick under post-earthquake conditions. Currently, most of the healthcare institutions are shut down in the area, and many local and international origin field hospitals are meeting the medical needs.
So you are there interpreting for people during a very, very trying time in their lives. I could imagine you're in the hospital, people are injured. Did you receive any sort of crisis training beforehand?
Yes and no. My degrees are in international relations and translation studies. I have been teaching at 9 Eylül University, as you said, various interpreting classes for 18 years. And some of these classes are community interpreting, healthcare interpreting, and medical translation. And those classes cover topics related to communication with people who need humanitarian aid, specifically refugees and immigrants. And teaching those topics equipped me with medical terminology. And I have also been working as a conference interpreter for over 15 years. So all these experiences helped me prepare for interpreting for such humanitarian relief work. Though I would say emotionally, I was not. And I believe most people were not prepared to face such a tragic, heartbreaking disaster and loss.
So several weeks after those quakes, are interpreters still in the region assisting in any sort of operations?
Mm-hmm. Yes, the Samaritan's Purse Field Hospital is still open and providing extensive healthcare services for maybe a month or 2 more months. And over 50 interpreters served so far voluntarily and self-sacrificingly. Even though I had to leave after 2 weeks of my service there, almost 30 volunteer interpreters are still serving there in Antakya, and I'm supporting them from Izmir, where I am, by recruiting more volunteers to replace those who come to the end of their voluntary work. And my contact info has been circulated on social media to reach more interpreters in English, Turkish, and Arabic. And we received so many applications from all over Turkey, even from other countries, from both professional and non-professional interpreters, as well as students and earthquake victims themselves, to offer their language skills in these humanitarian efforts. And one of our interpreters is my own student, who was an earthquake victim. She's a senior interpreting student and was in her hometown Antakya for her winter break during the earthquake. She and her family had left their house and were living in their car when I reached her to help in the field hospital. She was happy to help and has been there interpreting from day one, practicing her professional skills while helping her own people in such a meaningful way.
Well, thank you, Olive, for talking to us today and giving us more insight into what you went through firsthand in the quake zone.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
While it's often criticized for its negative impact on society, in times of crisis, social media comes into its own. Communication is instant, enabling rescue teams to locate and rescue survivors trapped under the rubble. If you find yourself caught in such a situation, here's what you need to know. Well, firstly, make sure your emergency notifications are turned on. This will ensure that you receive important updates and alerts from authorities. Identify the apps that consume the most energy on your phone and delete any unnecessary ones to make your battery life last longer. To communicate, use SMS and online platforms whenever possible. You should also keep your phone calls short to avoid draining the phone's battery. Now, to stay informed, follow official sources, trusted institutions, and confirmation and verification platforms on social media. Be wary of accounts that claim to have access to inside information but lack the necessary expertise. Avoid sharing images with sensitive content, especially if they're uncensored. They might cause further panic, distress, or get deleted for violating online platforms' rules. You can search for tweets sent from a specific location by using geographic coordinates on Google Maps or finding posts from the region using location notification features on various social media platforms. As the world rallied to support those affected by the earthquake, some unexpected heroes emerged. Now, they didn't have capes or extraordinary powers. No, they were a group of tech-savvy geeks who created websites from scratch to help with rescue operations. These proved to be a lifeline for those affected by the disaster. Not only did they help in organizing the distribution of aid, but essentially, they played a crucial role in rescuing people trapped under the rubble. One of these is deprem.io. This website facilitates communication between those on the ground and those offering support from afar, and it provides up-to-date information on the latest developments. AfetHarita.com is another one. It compiles help requests and the information families have put on social media and maps them. Deprem Yardım is a website where quake victims can share their current status to inform their relatives. You can also see victims' registered requests for food, tents, clothes, and medicine. And if you find yourself overwhelmed with online posts and are looking for a more streamlined way to stay informed, stream.eptext.com has a solution. This platform collects tweets related to the earthquake and presents them in a single stream. Users can filter the tweets by cities, allowing them to hone in on information that's more relevant to them. Unfortunately, though, not all people use the internet for good. Intentional or otherwise, social media was filled with misinformation following the quakes. Like these videos behind me, hundreds of fake news with doctored images, footage from other parts of the world, or previous earthquakes appeared online dressed up as if they were coming from the Turkish disaster zones. It can get particularly tricky to navigate the internet in times like this. Anxiety and panic might lead people to post without thinking. This is why it's so important to double-check sources and not amplify the spread of questionable posts. And that just about wraps up this special edition of Newsfeed. We will never forget the misery and desperation this tragedy has brought. But despite the overwhelming impact of the disaster, there were moments of extraordinary courage and kindness from those who rushed to rescue and give relief to the victims. Here's a reminder of the courage and selflessness of those who risked their lives to save others.